Welcome to Center Heist Productions. It is June 12th, 2024. And please hit the like, subscribe down below in your right-hand corner. I'd muchly appreciate that. You'd be helping me big time. And I thank those who are followers of Center Heist Productions. So again, let's talk about what the title says. I wasn't going to make a tape as of yet, as you know, because it's a fairly busy summer. But since I'm here, I seen the large amount of false reports that they're just building up. There's so much false garbage being spewed out by reporters in a lot of agencies, writers coming from different platforms. Seems to be a lot of writers, and I know, unfortunately, Basu. There was 2 or 3 articles he wrote, and it's really got Montreal Canadiens concerned and misinformation. Basically, it's his opinion. Guys, I did this tape more so to calm down the reaction to a lot of, sometimes there's people trying to influence what they would like on the Habs, whether it makes sense or not. And sometimes their background, they got just as much opinion rights to their opinion as anyone else. But, when you try to write it as it's the gospel, it is not the gospel. And unfortunately, these articles affect a lot of people, but you have to remember, you have to take these articles as a grain of salt. It's just his opinion. He's had opinions on the draft. I'm going to address in this. He's had opinions on the trades, and we've had insiders with their opinions as well. So we're going to get to it, and there's a lot of this going on directly in Montreal, where we get a lot of news reporters just jumping on the bandwagon, and same thing with their radio stations up there. A lot of garbage being spewed, and then unfortunately, we get some of these smaller podcasts jump all over this material because they don't want anything they just want a story, and it seems to be the bottom dollar. It's a story, correct? So they go with their own opinion, and then they feed into these false reports that were opinions originally, just that they took them out of context, making them bigger, because that's what gossip does. It builds a bunch of BS. So, and I can't blame him for writing an article. That's his job. But I blame people for misinterpreting things and taking it as it's the gospel. So it's almost, the viewer has to use some common sense. Okay, so we're going to get into the draft pick, and this is going to be a very chaotic, because after Celebrini, the closeness of this draft is unbelievable. I would say anywhere from, the top 15 or 16, top 16 players, maybe even 19. You can get 1 to 19. Anything could change here because people are jumping up in different views and different columns. I kind of follow Mackenzie's more so. Like I said, I've seen a guy, Wheeler, who was doing one. I think he's connected to, I think also to the Athletic. I'm not sure. I think so. But anyway, I'm glad we're not going by his draft because to put Catton as somebody Montreal should look at it, number 5. And I've heard a few small podcasts supporting Zane Pyrick, and that's a joke. If you watched him in the Memorial Cup, yes, he's a very talented offensive defenseman, but I wouldn't want him as a defenseman on my team. Sorry, he defensively made so many mistakes. No, thank you. There's a lot of cleanup in his game that I see better defensemen available that have more rounded off games. So I've seen a small podcast kind of pushing Catton and Parak as Montreal's picks, and that's outrageous. Number 1, Catton is very talented, not for the Habs. Habs, we got to be out of our caught picking trees if we don't think we're still small up front. We are hugely small. When you think of it, we've only gotten Slavkovsky and Doc, who we don't even know if we're realistic. Is he, we know he's got the talent, but is he going to be a part of this because we don't know if he's injury prone. But that's the only two guys brought in. Big, you got Josh Anderson and Armia, who probably won't be a part of the Habs when this all comes down. That we're ready. So that's going to be two big guys gone. So you have four big guys, two gone. The rest are Smurfs. And that's, like I say, Suzuki might be at the 6 foot range. It's not enough. It's when he's one of the bigger guys. After that, there's a problem. So we have to up the size. It has to be upped immensely. So for us, it is critical to get that right. We need size, wingers with good quality skills, playmaking or goal scoring, whichever it be, but that can make some noise and be brutal, to a defense in the playoffs. And clear out, I stand firm because, like I said, I look at this now. I'm going by McKenzie's reports here, and it's changed again every time I look at his reports. It's there's a slight change to it. So looking at McKenzie's, well, we all know Celebrini's going, and he's probably the only one who's NHL ready. Then it goes. This shocked me. In his opinion, I hope it goes this way. I really hope it goes this way. To tell you the truth, I like his top five picks the way they go. I hope he's correct. I don't tend to agree, but I do trust a lot of his. I do think they'll be top picks, but I don't know if they'll be top five. But he's got Siliev going to Chicago, and that would be a great pick for Chicago. It would really beef up the future for their defense. You'd have a leader there who's a shutdown guy. To me, I hope Chicago goes that way because that takes our concern of the pressure that we're concerned about for Montreal, us getting a forward. So that would be great if this goes this way. Then you got Luchinov going to Anaheim. I can see that happening. I actually see Siliev going, in my opinion, to Anaheim. I got a bad feeling that Chicago will take Demidov. But anyway, this is McKenzie's. It's Celebrini, Vasiliev, Lechenkov, Yzerman at 4. I can't. Well, although he's got quite scoring potential, let's hope Wardell goes for that. I concern myself that Wardell would go with Lindstrom. That's my concern. Yeah, but McKenzie has Lindstrom going to us, and both of the main forwards that we should be looking at Lindstrom. If he is there and him and Demidov are there, you got to take Lindstrom. He's a better fit, and I agree with McKenzie. Demidov would go to Utah, which be a good fit for them. So Dickinson would go 7 in McKenzie's order. Hellenius would go 8th. Parekh would go 9th. I think that's too high for Parekh, in my opinion. 10 would be Catton. I think Catton is a better pick than Parekh. Connolly has really moved up to number 11 in McKenzie's. That's quite a substantial rise. Yakachek Chuck is at 12. Bulum is at 13. Yarachek is at 14. Hemming is at 15. Aginla drops to 16. I can't see him going. I honestly kind of, worst case scenario, see Aginla in Calgary. That's just how I see that falling. Green Trees in 17. Cherry Schaff is, if I'm saying his name right, is at 18. Seneke, I can't believe this drop. Down to 19. That shocked me because I think he should be above in my books. I think he should be right after Dickinson at 8. That's my opinion. I think there's Hellenius and all of those players. I think Seneke would be above that in the way I look at his value. But they got him at 19, McKenzie. And then there's Nygaard, who's at 20. Ritchie's at 21. Boisvert is at 22. Kvechar, Jarve, or whatever, is at 23. Basha, who I like, is at 24. I think he's close to somebody we could be looking at for our second pick if we kept it. Howe is 25. 26 is Lichenko. And then we got Perachak at 27. Alik at 28. Gridin at 29. Bordeaux, Bordeaux is at 30. Pedersen is at 31. And Latter Reginald, I can't pronounce his name, 32. Those seem pretty. There's a lot of movement. I'm really shocked. There's some movement there. I was shocked to see Aginla and Seneke drop as far as they did in Mackenzie's list, and Conley rise so much. Again, I think I'd have Seneke and Aginla above at least above at 8, starting at 8 and 9. That's my opinion. I think everybody else should fall under them. But that's where Mackenzie's got them, and I hope it does go this way because Lidstrom would fall on our lap, and we really need to stick to him. We've gotten the word that I don't think these dinners don't look into that too much because our last 2 first-round draft picks didn't go out to dinner. So you can't count on that. Yes, it shows interest, but I think there's more guys that they're interested, that they're more sure. They could be more sure. We don't even know. So I don't think any of us can get too wrapped up in that. I hope it's Lidstrom. He went to dinner. Aginla went to dinner. Who was the other one that went to dinner? I want to say Catton went to dinner. Anyway, with that, and Dickinson went to dinner. So, yeah. So if that's the case, interesting choices there. So, I think, a couple of them I wouldn't have on my list. Now, Dickinson, not a knock against him. He's definitely, from what they're all saying, by far the best defenseman of the defense crew. But he doesn't go as quickly. And to me, Perek, that guy should be much farther down the list than he is because his defensive holes are terrible. Now, I've seen a smaller podcast really pumping up the tires, and I know there's a huge influence on that particular podcast because they're American hockey players, come out of the American system. So Catton and Perek, lots of favoritism. They like offensive defensemen as well. But I think, if you got to stay clear of that. Like for Montreal, we wouldn't want somebody who's not a knock against Barron. I think Barron might be an upgrade in responsibility wise compared to Perek. So that's my thought on that. I think it'd be a huge mistake if we ever went near that. So I definitely hope those smaller podcasts are incorrect because Perek is not. There's far too much that work he needs defensively. I don't care what he brings offensively. If you are too much of a disaster in your own end, it ain't going to pan out for you. So, with that being said, I do hope, and I think it's mandatory that Lidstrom is the perfect fit for Montreal. And I tell you, to see Seneke drop to 19, boy, that would make me awful interested if I'm Montreal trying to make a trade. Whether, like for me, I'm still under the opinion we need to trade that pick up a bit because I think it's got to be above Columbus. That's just my opinion. I think we got to get into second or third. That's my opinion. I don't think it'll happen. It doesn't happen very often. So we got to really pray that Lidstrom and Demidov do fall down the list and that Seneke's available. So those to me are the 1, 2, 3, and then again LaFour for Montreal. I could, like I say, to me it's Lidstrom is the answer. Next choice would be Demidov. We got to talk about that. Now there's a lot of different stories that his stock is falling, and you can almost see why that. But is this a smokescreen? Is my concern. Like what happened with Michkov. I really am starting to wonder because I know he's at a lower league. I do question, is he as good as Michkov because he is at the lower league? But then I heard some info that the KHL deliberately did that to him because he wouldn't sign on board, so they let him go back down to the juniors to play. So because it's not going to help him develop. So that being the case that he's that good, he could have been, and he just didn't want to sign long term. Then that's fine. Then I think no matter how you do it, it's a crap shot all the way through this draft of what you. I just think we're making a huge mistake if we don't get Lidstrom. If he's available, then you got to go Demidov and take the risk. You got it. It's going to be a risk. I know I have my question marks about that level being the MHL or whatever it is over in Russia. It makes me question too. And I heard some info on his skating not being, but I wonder if that's just a smokescreen because he's got good ratings when it comes to being a better team player than Mitch Goff. And, still evaluate. I don't know how they can evaluate him being better when they're playing at two different levels, but so be it. So I do think it would be a much riskier than Lidstrom. And he's got an injury that he's nursing as well. So there's a lot of injuries in these top guys as well. So it's not just Lidstrom. And from what we hear on Lidstrom, he's pretty much got the bill of health approved where it's he'll be fine for the future. This is no injury was long term going to hold him back. So we can get that air cleared up a bit from the reports we're hearing. So that just puts him in the same boat as everyone else. That concern lightens. I think anytime you have injury, all we could put the half of the list being they're injured. Is that going to be long term? So I think you can get rid of that concern. So he's got to be first, and if you go second, our second choice is Demidov. I can live with that being our second choice. But if Lidstrom's there, you got to take Lidstrom first. But Demidov would be your second choice. And if they're both gone, then I think the only two players next is Seneke and Aginla. And I would take Seneke over Aginla. He's size-wise, he better fits the bill, and he's got quite soft hands. And I like Aginla, don't get me wrong, but he'd be my fourth choice. After that, there's nobody. There is nobody. If we make the mistake of going after a defenseman, we're making a huge mistake, and we're going to create chaos within our defense corps because you're going to be at a standstill, and teams may be able to take us for a ride development-wise, that these guys, defensemen, gain their value too slowly, and then you don't get the forwards in your exchange that you're planning to get these top forwards. You don't. You get kind of taken for a ride because those guys haven't blossomed and fully developed as they're slower to develop. So that's problematic. And why add to our headaches? I would be devastated if we went with a defenseman. Comes to that point, to me, trade it. Trade it off. Now, I'm firm if we trade it off. You trade it off for one of 2025's first round picks. And you trade it you try to get a deal done with San Jose or Chicago. So you're going to have one of the top picks. And I'm sure they'd go for it because I think they'd wouldn't mind having a defenseman in Chicago. And yeah, both of them probably actually. There's so much work to be done that they'd probably love having a forward and a chance at a good forward. But it would solve. I would rather wait if we can't get what we actually want instead of making a mistake. So that's where I stand. I can wait a year if that's what the problem's going to be. I think the second pick we get is probably going to be traded like it usually is. I expect a big splash trade by Montreal per usual, like the Doc trade. Now, the Doc trade was good, but problem is we got the big question mark. Is he injury prone? If he's not, we're going to be flying. I love Doc, but I am concerned if he's injury prone. Newhook, he's a good hockey player, but you don't give up what we gave up to get a third liner. Sorry. He'll be a good third liner now that he's already here. That's great. He's got the hustle. He's got the right mindset. But I just think we overpaid. We can't make that mistake again. So if we're going to do it, we have to get somebody established if we're trading that second pick and make it count. We have to get somebody who is that player that is a top six winger. Has to be. Otherwise, you might as well hold on to the pick and pick yourself, and maybe you trade up with a couple second round picks and try to get yourself to the level where you can grab Seneke. Wouldn't that be something to get Lidstrom and Seneke? So that's my thought process on that. Excuse me. So with that being said, now we get to the rumors again that came out of Basu. Also, Elliot Freeman saying pretty much Montreal possibly would have to give up. It was pretty specific. Basu was kind of saying Montreal didn't have the big star we needed to get him. And or one of the two, actually, I don't know if it was Basu or Freeman. One of the two of them said that. The other said that they would want Mike Matheson, would be the only thing they would want from Montreal that they were asking for. And I say it like this: I'm like everybody else. I like his leadership and think he would be good here for another 2 years. But there's a but. If I'm trying to get Natchez and make that deal and get him to fix our top six, I'm pulling the trigger on that deal. Go ahead, take Matheson, because Matheson, we can. You're not going to get the production of who we replace him with. However, you'll get the veteran experience. We don't need him to be at the level production wise that Matheson's at, whoever they would get to replace him as a veteran, just to be there to help the young guys. He could be a second pairing defenseman, could even be a third pairing, as long as you had veteran experience. Because you don't want to get in the way of Gooley and whoever his partner's going to be, even the second pairing. You don't want to hold it back too much. I mean, you could have one there to pair with like Lane Hudson, but again, you don't want to hold it back. You want these guys to get the touches now. Some of these guys need the touches. Um, so with that being said, I'm sorry if there's a trade there. I totally, with Basu, I agree with him. In that area, he said, you make that trade, and I agree. I think you may not want to. I wouldn't want to, but hey, if that's what they want to get Natchez, I'm doing it. And whatever they're asking to go with it, like a couple draft picks, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm sorry that 26 pick and Mike Matheson for Natchez, I'm game. I'd even throw in a second rounder. So, but that's how that looks. So, and then you get Freeman saying we didn't have. I think we do. I think it's Matheson. I think I agree with Basu. So I would ignore some of the opinions that they're not interested. Now we got to hope to deal with. Hopefully, Carolina, the owner is more mature now that he's got a new GM and Wardell's in Columbus. Let's hope that that's corrected itself, because we have a totally different regime of management and they are mature. And so that nonsense between Carolina and Bergevin, Wardell and Bergevin, should be over. So I think both teams could help each other and blossom and do well to help assist each other. Because I think there's a couple of defensemen that could help Carolina from Montreal as well. Like Harris, I think, would be a help. But even, if they could work with Barron, because I'd get rid of Barron before Harris. But if you had to give them up, you have to give them up. Or Struble, those are guys that are available. But so I think let's hope, because otherwise there's not much you can do about it. Now, it seems like Wardell's the guy who's carrying the chip on his shoulder to Columbus. And if I was Wardell, I would back off, because your team is not in good shape. You could definitely use a lot of Montreal's young defensemen. So if he's carrying a chip and being immature, he's only going to shoot himself in the foot. So that to me is like, okay, exclude Columbus from trades if he's that big of an idiot, right? So it's definitely rumorville, but hopefully that he's willing to deal, and he might be just trying to get juice Montreal to make that trade, scare them that he's going to go after Lidstrom. We don't know, but I feel more secure if we traded up to second or third position, but I don't think it doesn't happen. Last time it happened was the Sundin brothers. So I don't hold my breath on that, but I would like that, and I would definitely love. We have to, like I say, we have to realize that Demidov does come with question marks, so he would have to be your second choice, and your third choice would have to be Seneke, and then your fourth choice would have to be Iginla. How Yzerman jumps up to fourth blows my mind, but I hope maybe he's the scoring piece that Columbus needs, and this Patrick Liney trade would be outrageous. We don't need to go near that with a 10-foot pole. We don't need somebody with a bad cultural and that's injury prone combination. Sorry, he's not the answer for Montreal. Just like Trevor Zegras, the rumors going around he was seen with Martin St. Louis. So what? From what the word is they want a skyrocket in return for him. with stuff coming back to them. We're just not in that, and I wouldn't want them anyway, culturally and size wise. You're going to give up Cole Caulfield because can't keep all the Smurfs? That'd be outrageous. I'd keep Cole Caulfield any day of the week. So avoid Zegras. If they want too much for him, let him deal with somebody else. And we don't need him. We don't want to go after that anyway. The only guy I've said it over and over, in the restricted free agents for top six that is of any value to Montreal is Natchez. If you can't do it, you're better off keeping your 2 draft picks. And then try to work something where you move up your second one so that you can sink Seneke as your second player. If you can get Lindstrom first, they're going to have to eyeball. And I think they're smart enough that they don't have to worry about all these crazy rumors that are out. I think Hughes and Gordon are smarter than that. And I do think they're going to want somebody established. That's why I do see the second one going. But again, if there's nothing there and no one is willing to make that trade, like I say, you got to make sure that Lidstrom's there and Demidov. Otherwise, we have failed at 5. There's no sense of holding it. Trade for next year's draft pick is what I'm saying. Remember, I'm not talking about this year's. I'm saying next year, 2025, you could go without that 5th draft pick if Lidstrom and Demidov are gone. You could go without it this year and wait till 2025, which you probably have a better crack at a better chance of getting a real good forward and just easier access. You wouldn't have so many teams in the way if you dealt with Chicago and San Jose. And I'm sure they would do that. But again, trade-wise, I don't think Natchez is off the table. He's the only, if we don't get him, there's no sense of going after anything else. And then you will see that second, and I still think you're going to anyway, see that second first rounder from Winnipeg. It's going to come into a big Doc type trade. I just hope this time it's not repo guy. It's somebody who's established it and isn't a project player. So with that being said, I wanted to clear the air and just push. I wanted to advocate the players that we need to back and advocate, and yet just because some of these guys are pushing and promoting guys that are not cut out to be what the Habs need. They're going to be good for other teams, but they're not what the Habs need. Size and skill, and that is the bottom dollar. Where it's Buck Drop first, you've seen it here at Center Heights Productions. We will catch you in the next episode, and I'm sure there probably could be a couple of these, because when I see nonsense and garbage being spewed, I'm going to counter it, trying to make a positive vibe and who we should keep focused on in what's coming. And let's hope that, and I'm sure that Hughes and Gordon are smart enough to do that. And let's listen to what comes out of their mouths instead of listening to reporters and it's just their opinion. Thank you for joining me. Hit the likes and subscribe before you go, please, and leave your comments. I want to see what your thoughts are on what we discussed today. God bless.